Welcome everyone to Plastics Frontiers webinar series. The Plastics Frontiers webinar series was developed by the collaboration between the Royal Australian Chemical Institute, Society of Plastics Engineers Australia New Zealand and Society of Chemical Industry. We are thankful for the sponsorships from BSF Australia, Reckitt Benckiser, Qenos and Foundry Intellectual Property. For any concerns, please reach out to RACI. We are also thankful to the organising committee, Gary Bowman, Chair of RACI Industrial Chemistry and Dr. Yvonne Ma, Han Michel, President of the Society of Plastics Engineers Australia New Zealand and Dr. Steve Petinakis, Jenny Sharwood, OAM of the Victorian Education Committee for RACI and Dr. Richard Twitz, also Chair of Society of Chemical Industry. The purpose of the series is to highlight the continually evolving role and important contributions of plastics in society, some key societal and environmental issues faced by the plastics industry, and how the industry is rising to these challenges with new innovations and practices. With our backgrounds in education, industry, and academia, we are reaching out to as many sectors ranging from secondary chemistry teachers and students to researchers and innovators in industry and in universities. We hope you enjoy this series. Thank you for watching.
I hope that everybody can hear us. My name is Han Michel. I am starting off this webinar. Welcome, and we are very grateful that you have decided to participate. First of all, let me thank our sponsors, because without sponsorships, organizations like the RACI, the SCI, and the SPE cannot do the things which they really like to do, and that is sharing information about technology and science. So that is also happening today. We will share with you information which is available particularly in the industry, and we are very pleased that we can start today with the presentation by Ben Mcculloch of Martok. So let me introduce Ben. Ben joined Martok in August 2017 as a sales account manager and product manager for Martok's branded recycled PET called Marpet. After completing his degree, Ben began his career at Rayplus as the Victorian sales rep for a period of 3 years. He worked primarily with councils on sustainable products. He is passionate when it comes to extending a material life cycle analysis and preserving our resources. He completed a Bachelor of Business at Monash University, majoring in Marketing and Management in 2013. Please welcome Ben.
Thank you, Han. Just share my screen. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
That's all good, fantastic. Okay.
And your screen works too.
Fantastic, that's all we want. Okay. Thank you, Han, and thank you, Yvonne. It really is a pleasure to be a part of this. So thank you for extending the invitation, and hopefully I can add a bit of value. So I've been, as Han said, I've been with Martok now since 2017. My role primarily there is in marketing and sales. I'm the product manager for the group's food grade recycled PET. Now in this session, there's a few points that I want to run through. So I want to discuss who we are, what we're doing with respect to the circular economy. We'll touch on why plastic is so important, what is required in reducing litter and pollution. We'll look at, again, Martok's involvement in the circular economy, talk a little bit about sustainability by design, and what needs to happen there in terms of providing recyclable packaging. And we'll finish up with a few industry examples and case studies of where recycled content is currently being used. So just to give you a brief background on the Marto Group, we're an Australian privately owned business. We're a raw materials supplier to the Australian, well, ANZ and global regions. We've been around since 1975, and we're a bit of a one-stop shop. What I mean by that is we're made up of 5 business units. Each of those business units are uniquely positioned to service different aspects of the plastics industry. So I'll run through that very briefly with you, but we are a manufacturer and supplier of commodity resins, both commodity and engineering compounds. So that is tailored compounds for specific applications. We produce and supply master batch and additives, rotational molding powders, and we're heavily involved in recycling. It makes up a big part of our business. So just to go back to the basics, why is plastic so important? It is lightweight, it's robust, you can drop it, it won't break, it's cost effective, it preserves food and reduces food waste. This is incredibly important. You might have heard, but food waste makes up, I believe, about 6% of our global greenhouse gases. And I think, if you look at a cucumber, the use of plastic on that product gives it 2 to 3 weeks of additional life. So it's incredibly important. And last but not least, it's inherently recyclable. So we can take plastic, we have been doing this for years, and so have others in the industry, but we can take plastic, we can recycle it time and time again, and we can send it back out the door into many and varying applications, from industrial applications all the way through to direct food contact applications, fast-moving consumer goods, for example. So on the topic today, a key point that I want to make is we can't eradicate litter or pollution, but we can minimize it. The steps that we can take to reduce litter and pollution. The problem we face, and contrary to what many may have heard, is that up until 2018, we were exporting the majority of our waste offshore. Of course, some of it is finding its way into landfill, but a big portion of our waste was collected, baled up, put on a ship and sent offshore to another country, essentially making it their problem. Now, in 2018, the National Sword campaign from China came into play, put a ban on that. Other countries followed suit, and it essentially put a stop to exporting waste offshore. So what that means for us in Australia, we do have a waste crisis. We've got a valuable resource that can't go into the ground. So instead, we need to recycle and reuse. And I think that will no doubt, decrease or minimize litter and pollution that we see in the environment. Plastic, it is inherently recyclable. So there is no reason that it should go into the ground. We have infrastructure, equipment, technology here in Australia whereby we can process waste and, as I said before, send it back out the door, give it a second, third, fourth, fifth life back into new and existing applications. So one of the important considerations here is we need to treat it as the valuable resource that it is. Education is key, and I harp on about this quite a lot. I was actually out at a school last week, a primary school. We were doing a presentation on the circular economy to year 5 and 6 students, and the first question we asked them was, what does plastic mean to you? What is the meaning of it? What do you think of when you think or see the word plastic? And the responses we got was trash, rubbish, and bad. So we're almost preconditioned in a way to have quite a negative perception when we think of plastic, but it is incredibly important to us. And it's not as simple as, moving away from plastic to glass. There's a reason why it's being used. And the idea around pollution and waste in general, it's not plastic specific. You walk down to your nearest beach, you'll see that it's plastic, glass, aluminium, cardboard. It affects all consumable products that we use on a daily basis. But I think education is key. We need to educate on the correct disposal of recyclable materials to give us the best shot of taking that material back in and recycling it. CDS systems are incredibly important. As I said before, we need to put a value. There needs to be value on waste. If there's value on waste in the form of CDS, consumer deposit schemes, no doubt more and more people will go out of their way to correctly recycle. And in doing so, that material will work its way through the system. It will be recycled and it will find its way back out the door. And lastly, this is incredibly important, but supporting products and packaging that use recycled materials. That is where creating demand for recycled materials. So it's all well and good to have this technology and equipment available to process waste plastic in the form of post-industrial and post-consumer resins and recycle the material. But unless we're actively buying that material back, you can have all of the technology in the world and it's no good. The circular economy is not going to function. So I'm coming at this more from the angle of recycling and reusing the waste we generate. We need to deal with that. It's a valuable resource. It's a finite resource. It's derived from oil and gas. It's not going to last forever. So we need to make the most of it. And I think we are seeing more and more of that. We're seeing brand owners, adopting recycled content into their packaging, especially in line with the 2025 targets that APCO have set, which is fantastic. But we do need to see more of that happening in order to reduce pollution that we see. So if we look at the evolving market and what's happening globally, there's a few things. In Europe, obviously, there's legislation in place which is driving the use of recycled content back into packaging. In Australia, we have the Australian Packaging Covenant and their 2025 targets. And in New Zealand, we have the NZ Plastics Packaging Declaration and the ANZPAC Plastics Pact. So there's a few common goals there that we're working towards as an industry. I want to touch on the equipment and technology that is driving the circular economy to give you a bit of insight into what we do as a company. So essentially, since our inception, we've been recyclers. We're a compounding company at heart, but since 1975, how it began, we were actually taking back our customers' waste in the form of post-industrial waste. We were recycling it, and it was going back out the door into various applications. We formalised MARTOG LCM, which stands for Life Cycle Management, back in 2006. And we've continued to build on that and grow on that part of the business. It's a core part of our business today and represents a big part of our company. In 2016, we invested in a Vacuarema line to produce food-grade recycled PET. So the line that you see in front of you now is Vacuarema technology. And to talk about the process of how waste gets back to us and how that is circular, if we use a PET bottle, for example, if recycled correctly, it will go into a bin. It will go through a MRF process, and what we get is hot wash flake. So hot wash flake, the process is designed as a bit of a pre-cleaning mechanism. So what that will do is it will granulate the material into almost like fingernail clippings, and it's set at about 90 degrees, and it will wash off residual foods and liquids. And what will come to us is hot wash flake. It's not food grade approved, but what we'll do is we'll put that through Vacuarema technology, which through extremely high heat, friction, and high vacuum, we're able to extract the volatiles out of that flake, any of the nasty. So it will go through several reactors, and it will end up being extruded out. And I'll just see if we can play this video here to give you a bit of insight into what that looks like. Bear with me. Whoops. So that's the extrusion process. That will then go through a cooling system. It will be pelletized, and there we will have a food grade recycled PET. In our case, it's branded MARPET, suitable for use into fast moving consumer goods, ranging from beverage bottles, meat packaging, fresh food packaging, all the way through to cosmetics and household cleaning products. So it's a fantastic product. Oh, there we go. and we're building on that. So I want to touch on what makes packaging sustainable. For us, there's two key elements here. The first being, is it recyclable? Designing for simplicity is always best. You know, I studied marketing at university, and the one thing that always stuck with me was your product doesn't want to look like, you don't want a product that looks like the product next to you on the shelf. You need to be able to differentiate it. But in the case of plastic, it's really critical that we look at a few of these things to make it as recyclable as possible. So single polymer, for example, single polymer structures, the color and additives that are used in that polymer. We've seen some really good examples, such as Sprite and 7-Up, who have moved away from green packaging. What that does is whilst green packaging it's still recyclable. If we go back to natural and we go back to the basics, it gives us a recyclable material that can go out into more applications. So another consideration is right weighting. Okay, does a bottle need to be 30 grams? Can we take that back to 20 grams? These are some key considerations for recyclability. The second element is, does it contain recycled content? Now, we're not advocating that all products need to be made out of 100% recycled plastic. We've seen examples of where that's happening, and it's fantastic. But I think if businesses are using a percentage of recycled content back into their packaging, they are contributing to the circular economy, which will no doubt have a flow-on effect to recycling rates and collection rates and litter and pollution. So why recycled content in packaging? It promotes a circular economy, which is a really obvious one. Plastic is a finite resource, so we need to make the most of it. And you know, if it's going to the ground, it's going to sit there for 450 years. If it's going offshore, well, that can't happen anyway now. So the second point there is it results in a significantly lower carbon emission. So for PET, for example, or rPET, studies have been completed across the world that look at recycled PET versus virgin PET. And these studies have shown that there is a carbon reduction of up to 79%, which is very significant. And as I've discussed, it creates demand for post-consumer and post-industrial waste. So we are going to get better collection rates, and it will no doubt result in less litter and pollution. But education is very, very important in that aspect. So for Martog, at Martog, for food grade polymers, we have Marpet, which is our recycled PET. For Marlene, this is polyethylene, and we've recently invested in a refresher unit to produce food grade recycled high density polyethylene using milk bottles. This will be available to the market in the coming months. We're just going through a testing phase at this point in time. And we also have a food grade recycled low density polyethylene. Other than that, we are heavily involved in general recycling. So polypropylene, for example, for mechanical recycling, we're not at the stage yet of having a food grade recycled resin. But no doubt post-consumer and post-industrial polypropylene, amongst other polymers, is something that is growing within the market space. I just want to finish here with a few industry examples to show you where these recycled polymers are being used. This is an interesting one. So recyclable packaging down in Carrum Downs, they produce recycled PET sheet for thermoforming. And you could walk into Coles and Woolworths, any supermarket chain, and you will find this sort of packaging, whether it's a tomato, a grape, fruit or vegetables made from recycled content. We actually got to visit Flavorite's site. This is one of the brand owners at the end. We got to visit their site recently, and it was incredible to see where this material was at and packaging was actually being used. Beverages, cosmetic products. So this is one by Heritage Brand, made from 100% recycled PET. Trendpack and Aldi, their collaboration has been fantastic on producing household chemical products made from 100% recycled PET. So that's it from me. Now I've mentioned throughout this presentation that education is key. we've sort of set out on a bit of a goal to educate the industry. We feel like we have an obligation to do that, given our 45 years of experience in the industry. Now, we recently partnered with Sally Williams, who you might remember as being she's the brand power, used to do the brand power ads. She's now a sustainability advocate, and she's our brand ambassador for Martog LCM, which is fantastic. And what we're doing there is we're really trying to, you know, target the consumers and educate them on the importance of the circular economy. Consumers, brand owners, all the way through to the government. So there's some positive things happening there, and look, we're very proud to be a part of it all. So I'll leave that with you, Han.
Thank you very much.
Let me just get out of this share.
It's a good start, and I was actually struck by two things in your presentation. First of all, your emphasis on education, because if you look to all the programs by the government, usually that word is being forgotten. They want us to understand how it all works, but the money spent on education is, in my opinion, not sufficient. And it must be repetitive and not too many things at the same time, because otherwise the general public can't handle it. And you need to keep that in mind. And the other thing which really stood out was your clean factory. And I want everybody who is listening and watching this event this evening know that our plastics industry is a clean industry. It's not a waste industry. And I think that that is very important. As you mentioned yourself, Ben, your visit to the school, where the feedback from the kids wasn't too positive. And I hope that we can change that around. So that is for me as a first comment. If you would like to say something about it, please go ahead. Otherwise, we go to a question which I have here. The word is with you, Ben.
Sorry, say that again, Han.
You are on. If you want to comment on.
Oh, look, yeah. Thanks for your kind words there. And yes, look, education is key. At the end of the day, it all starts and ends with the consumer. So they play a major role in this. And I think your comments about taking it slower are very important. You know, we all know that it's a very, you know, there's a lot going on in the industry, even for us, and to understand everything. So I think taking it slow, piece by piece, and educating all involved is crucial to tackle this problem.
Thank you for that. I would like now to go to one of the questions here. I will read it to you. It is from Bill Verhagen. Great work being done by you and Martog, Ben. Congratulations. What challenges are you seeing in getting hold of quality post-consumer feedstocks, PET, PP and HDPE? I understand that much of the post-consumer feedstocks available in Australia are often not pure enough for remanufacture into high-quality resins. If so, do you see this improving? And if not, what is needed?
Thank you, Bill. Long time no speak. Yeah, it's a great question, and look, it is a problem. I mean, in terms of PET, we're not afraid to admit that a significant portion of our feedstock comes in from offshore. Now, the reason for that is that we can't source enough clean volume of post-consumer of PET flake. We're working with a few local suppliers on that, but to give you a really good idea on why that is the case, and a really simple one, PVC, which I'm sure you've all heard of prior, is problematic in the process. In the vacuum technology that you've seen during the presentation, we operate at pretty high temperatures, and And PVC, even if you take a step back to the hot caustic wash process, one of the benefits of that process is it will float off polyolefin, given the density of the material, and PET plastic will actually sink. So it's a bit, you can separate the polymers. PVC not only looks like PET, but it shares a similar density. So it will also sink in that process. Here in Australia, we still use PVC into a few legacy products, and it takes a very small amount of it to cause issues in this process, 50 parts per million, for example. So it's still making its way through the recycling stream. Certainly countries offshore, there's a few of them that have cut it out completely. So we don't see that issue. But on the vacuum side, we're operating at such high temperatures that PVC will actually degrade. And when it degrades into hydrochloric acid and so forth, and it causes big problems in our process. Fortunately, the technology, it can actually, well, not can, it picks up on that. So we're constantly monitoring the input raw materials that are being worked through. And if we do see contamination in terms of cross-polymer contamination, whatever it is, that material will automatically be deferred into a tech grade. So the process guarantees FDA approval, and it's constantly being monitored. But yes, back to your question, you know, flake is a problem at this point in time. We need, you know, our waste management needs to get better to ensure higher quality input raw materials. And look, I think that will come with time.
Thank you very much, Ben. I think we should go to the next presentation, and any other questions can be dealt with in the Q&A session afterwards. I would like to introduce our colleague, Steve Petinakis. Let me get his information in front of me. Steve Petinakis is currently employed with the PAC Group, working as the group's resident material science specialist for the ANZ region. Stephen has over 25 years experience in plastics, with extensive skills in project management and technical consulting, complex problem resolution and root cause analysis, polymer product development and testing, polymer conversion processes, including wood plastic composite development and production. Stephen possesses strong skills in polymer formulation science, rubber technology, polymer recycling, and materials characterization and analysis. Stephen has also technical expertise in food contact regulation and compliance, testing of packaging materials, as well as experience in managing NATA-accredited laboratories. Stephen is a member of the Technical Advisory Committee for the Australian Packaging Covenant Organisation, and he is also a graduate of Monash University with a PhD in materials engineering, specializing in polymer natural fiber composites. That's quite a lot, but we know that Steve is the technical guy. So let's hear about what you have to say, Steve. Please welcome Steve.
Thanks very much, Han, for that kind introduction, and thank you for asking me to speak at this webinar series, and I really appreciate the offer. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Yeah, so everybody can see that? All good? Yeah. So yeah, as Han indicated, I'm currently the senior material scientist for the PAC Group. I've been with the company for about 4 years now, after jumping across from the R&D sector, where I was previously employed with the CSIRO. So my presentation this evening is going to focus on PAC's role in the local circular economy. Okay, so just a few words about PACT. So we are basically one of Australia's, well, if not Australia's biggest packaging converter. We have a number of about 110 manufacturing sites spread across 16 countries. We're currently going through a rebranding phase where we basically have 3 major divisions, which are packed reuse, packed recycling, and packed packaging. And within those, we have manufacturing sites which produce products for materials handling, consumer and industrial goods, and we also have packed pooling sites that manufacture crates for the major supermarket distributors. We also have a coat hanging business called TIC, where a lot of coat hangers are reused, collected and reused through the distribution chain. Pact is committed to the circular economy and working towards incorporating 30% recycled content across its packaging portfolio. And we are building scale in order to achieve this. So when we talk about the circular economy, there are 4 key components to achieving a successful circular economy. The first one is the raw material availability and getting access to clean, pure feedstocks. The second is promoting and building recycling infrastructure to be able to gain access to those clean feedstocks. The third part of that is ensuring that you have the manufacturing infrastructure to be able to deal with producing products with recycled content. We know that incorporating recycled content into packaging products or any other type of product is not always a direct dropping. There are certain challenges involved, and requires the ability to be able to process materials with recycled content and having the right equipment to be able to do that. And lastly, but not the least, is one of the keys here is driving the demand for recycled products. Ensuring that everybody plays a part, whether it's brand owners, retailers, and having the correct government assistance in terms of mandating and regulating for recycled content. These are all the critical parts to. So PAC's role in all this is, we're making major investments in technical infrastructure and capability to be able to deliver on our pledge and to support our key customers. So just as a starting point, the recycled material challenge. Obviously, there are a few keys that we need to, a few challenges that we need to address when we're incorporating recycled content, and these are usually around colour and consistency of colour, odour, gels and impurities and other contaminants, and mechanical properties, and all that will be dictated by how these materials are processed, as well, as I've already indicated. So, controlling the waste material and ensuring that we gain access to key consistent feedstocks is of paramount importance. So for PACT, in order to support our customers and to achieve, their major recycling targets that are being listed by many by 2025, PACT need to deliver on the following. Now, obviously, the first one is ensuring we have the capability and building infrastructure to understand the impact of recycled content on functional performance and aesthetics. being able to produce a spec on recycled content. We know that recycled content behaves differently to virgin materials. So ensuring that we have visibility across technical specifications is the key. We need to be able to meet and support customer demand for recycled content. Again, getting access to good quality feedstocks and ensuring that our product and customer acceptance of recycled content. So incorporating recycled resin into packaging or upcycling is one of the best tools at our disposal to ensure that we have a successful circular economy. We are certainly moving away from the once linear economy into making, reusing, recycling and reuse. Now, with the investments that PAC will be making over the coming months, this will ensure that we get access to quality feedstocks, which are local, and reducing our reliance on overseas feedstocks. So the process for making recycled resin, the first stage is obviously access and sorting of the material and the collection at curbside. We then go to sorting and separation of plastics from other substrates. In the case of HDPE and PET, the material that commands the high value for PET are your beverage bottles, which are typically baled, as well as HDPE, which is predominantly milk bottle material. Now, these products are then ground into flakes, they are washed, and then they undergo a process of decontamination where the material is either decontaminated in the melt phase or in the solid state. Material is then pelletized and then converted back to recycled resin. So at the moment, PACT have got access to RHDPE, so we can offer RHDPE to the market for the applications that you can see on your screen, for beverages, for food type applications. So most of this material is predominantly from milk bottles. We also have access to rPET, and through our partnerships with other players in the industry, we're able to offer rPET to our customers. So I just want to touch briefly on polypropylene. So the big question on our customers' minds at the moment is what's happening in the polypropylene space, and what are the options around PP. So in regards to polypropylene and creating a recycled PP circular economy, it's not as straightforward as is the case with high density polyethylene and PET. Now, the feedstock predominantly for polypropylene comes from many sources. It can be food, it can be also non-food applications. So also the other issue as well is that polypropylene is not being separated separately at the MRFs. So we also see that, as you're all aware, with polypropylene, there are different types of polypropylene. You've got your homopolymers, you've got your random copolymers, you have impact copolymers and the like. So what this presents is, variability in terms of melt flow, in terms of color. So being able to produce a food grade quality polypropylene is probably the ultimate aim at the moment to try and address that. So one thing PACT is doing at the moment is looking at developments to promote sorting of polypropylene, but looking at ways to produce polypropylene in various streams, but also to ensure that it is available for food contact use. So we're working towards that as a group. So currently at the moment, a lot of the polypropylene that we have access to is a mixed color. It could be jazz, it could be black. Most of it is post-industrial. So it is produced via mechanical recycling, which is, as we know, the material is shredded, washed, and it's repelletized. Also, there's emerging technologies which involve chemical recycling. Now, for polypropylene, this could certainly be one avenue. And unlike mechanical recycling, chemical recycling looks at unzipping the feedstock, taking it back to its starting chemicals, and then repolymerizing that into a virgin quality material. But the issue at the moment is that a lot of the chemical recycling that is taking place at the moment is predominantly based overseas. We do have a company based in Australia, Lysella, who are looking at using a process using supercritical water to unzip various polymer feedstocks. It's been primarily designed for flexible films and so forth, but the process is quite adaptable to other feedstocks as well. So there's always perception, and my previous colleague earlier mentioned some of these as well. So, you know, that recycled resin can compromise the quality of packaging. Again, it really depends on the quality of the feedstock and how it's been treated, and what it's undergone in order to. I mean, there are commercial processes available that can, we know, decontaminate material, as in the case of PET, and that we know that process is well proven, and it is able to produce a material that can be used back into food grade applications. Similar again for HDPE, and we're working towards solutions for polypropylene as well. So Pact have made investments and have formed partnerships with recycling companies to gain access to good quality feedstocks, and that in turn can then be used in our processing to then go back into food grade packaging. So as I indicated earlier, so one of the biggest announcements recently by Pact was the three-way partnership between Pact Group, Cleanaway, and Asahi. This plant is currently under production. This PET recycling plant, which is being built in Albury. This will have the capacity to produce 20,000 tonnes of good quality recycled PET resin, and most of that material will come through through curbside recycling, but also through container deposit schemes. So just a quick snapshot of some case studies and where recycled content is being used. So in New Zealand, we have a major customer, Lewis Road, who are using rPET, 100% rPET in their range of milk bottles, ranging from 300 ml up to 1.5 ml. And all of this is being produced with 100% rPET. Another good example with rPET is Asano's range of shampoo and conditioner bottles. Some of these products have also won packaging awards. The Tresemme Bottle is another example. The Tresemme Bottle, which comes out of our VIP plant in New South Wales, this is being produced with 50% RHDPE that is being derived from milk bottles. Another example is Earthwise, who are using their RHDPE into a laundry product. So I'm pleased to share with you this success story from Sulo. This is one that I was heavily invested in. We developed a process internally to be able to convert milk bottle resin into a resin that could be used for a mobile garbage bin. We managed to produce a mobile garbage bin with 60% recycled milk bottles. This was by no means a simple process. It took some polymer blending and polymer science in order to achieve this. As you know, typically milk bottle resin is a low fractional melt material. To be able to use this in an injection molding application like a garbage bin required good polymer blending capability in order to achieve that. So quickly coming to an end here. So another example you may have heard of recently is our rotational molding plant in Carrum Downs has won a contract with the Victorian government to supply noise walls for the Mordialloc bypass. It's the stretch of road that connects the Dingley bypass with the Frankston Freeway. So the material that went into that was 75% recycled content, and the feedstock for that predominantly came from milk bottles and silage wrap. A lot of the flexible that we use in the distribution chain. So this again was another project which required some good polymer science and blending and so forth in order to ensure that the recycled component met the requirement for processing. So in this case, rotomolding, but also it had sufficient properties to be able to be used in such an application. So yeah, major achievement by my colleagues down at Carrum Downs. And here's some snapshots of a recent announcement by the Vic government showing the production of the wall being assembled on site along that path of road. So that brings conclusion, my presentation and conclusion. Thank you for listening, and look forward to discussing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. What a fantastic display of how we need to do things in the supply chain. I'm very grateful that in representing PACT that you have shown us quite a number of applications and shown that things can be done. And that is, I think, the most important message. I would like to have a few questions and deal with Q&A, but we have surpassed the time. So I suggest that we do that in the Q&A session in about 20-25 minutes. So I hope that everybody who has a question on his heart can wait till that time. I would like now to introduce Marleen Kronje-Vermeulen. I used the Dutch pronunciation. Thank you to everybody for that. Marleen Kronje-Vermeulen is currently a Future Works Manager at the Coca-Cola Amatil Head office in Northern Sydney. Marleen has extensive experience in the packaging industry in Australia, having worked for Lion Co as packaging development leader at their offices at Sydney Olympic Park, GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals, Diageo and Casella Wines in New Zealand, and in New Zealand at Pernod Ricard and Carter Holt Harvey, which she joined in 2003. For 12 years, she worked before her time in ANZ with KWV, the leading South African wine and spirits producer, At all these companies, she gained her knowledge in packaging roles, commencing as a product development packaging specialist. Marleen obtained a PhD in biochemistry at the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, and when in Australia, a BSc in botany at the University of South Australia. Please welcome Marleen.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Han, for this opportunity. I'll share my screen. I hope it's coming through. Han, if you can just indicate if it's coming through.
Not yet. Yeah, it's coming.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. So yes, thank you for the opportunity, and it was really interesting to listen to Ben and Steve. And there's a lot of things that Ben had said that resonates into what I'm going to do tonight. And then obviously education is key. I agree with that. And from an Amatil perspective, and yes, earlier tonight I had to double check. This is basically the last week that we would still be called Coca-Cola Amatil, because as most people would know, Coca-Cola Amatil has been bought out by Coca-Cola European Partners. And then from next week onwards, we will be called Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners. But from an Amatil perspective, we definitely try and align with different business parties to also push the education platform and to get people to really understand what packaging material is about. And what I'm going to touch on is how Amatil is changing to meet its sustainability goals. And to be able to answer that, it's not an overnight story. It started quite a number of years ago. In 2009, Amatil started putting in their own blow molders. And then the lightweight development started basically from 2010, and by 2011, when we were manufacturing our own preforms out of Packaging Services Division in Eastern Creek, the process just basically progressed from there onwards. Manufacturing of our own closures started from 2012, also out of Packaging Services Division in Eastern Creek. Our use of recycled content in PET preforms started in 2013. And because we had the manufacturing of preforms and closures in-house, we could basically develop faster than somebody else would from buying just from a manufacturer. So from 2013, we incorporated more and more recycled content, so that by the year 2019, we have transitioned all single serve products over to 100% recycled content PET. That slide just shows all our products that we currently have in the market in a 100% recycled PET. If we just use the 600 ml bottle carbonated soft drink preform as an example, in 2009, when we transitioned to making our own blow molders, basically forming our own bottles, our preform weighed 26.5 grams. In 2010, we started lightweighting it to 23 grams. And by 2013, its weight had dropped to 20 grams, which resulted in a 15% recycled content, delivering a carbon footprint reduction of approximately 35%. Today, this preform weighs 19.8 grams and is made of 100% recycled PET, delivering a carbon footprint reduction of 75%. Just to note is last year we won a PETA award as well as a World Star Award for our work in the 100% recycled content phase. From 2020, we further refined and expanded our sustainability strategy. And now we have a suite of 10 ambitions supporting strategies to be achieved between 2020 and 2040. Our 10 core sustainability ambitions are linked to the drivers of Amatil long-term value proposition. I just need to highlight, I mean, Amatil at the moment is not just Australia, it's Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, New Zealand included. Number one was sustain and improve our current net zero water operations by being water stewards. Number two, reduce our total non-alcoholic beverage portfolio's sugar grams per 100 ml by 35% in Indonesia and 20% in Australia and New Zealand by 2025, and have well-being initiatives in all markets. Number 3, closing the loop on packaging by partnering on pack-to-pack recycling and reuse solutions in all countries by 2030. Number 4, achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2040, including 100% renewable electricity in Australia and New Zealand by 2025, and build and support climate resilient operations and communities. These 4 is the ones that we focus on most and where we put the most of our energy into. And they form basically the core of what we're trying to do to reach our sustainability ambitions. Number 5, we deliver positive impacts on our communities by leveraging our local presence. Number 6, achieve a zero harm workplace. Number 7, achieve diversity in our people. Number 8, build strong brand partnerships. Number 9, embed our responsible sourcing commitment in our supply partnerships. And number 10, partner with our customers on shared sustainability visions. I'm going to focus mostly on closing the loop on packaging. In focusing on that, we are looking for pack-to-pack recycling solutions in all countries where we operate. So mentioned before, it's not just Australia. And we try to do this by 2030. And yes, APCO 2025 targets are important and we are going to meet them in Australia, but Amatil is across more than just Australia. So designing for 100% recyclability and supporting well-designed infrastructures and initiatives for collection. We're also targeting 50% average recycled or renewable content across all packaging by 2030, and developing the feasibility of using an average of 75% recycled or renewable plastics in our bottles by 2030. We continue to work with governments and stakeholders across all countries of operation on packaging waste collection schemes. In Australia, we play a pivotal role in container deposit and refund schemes. We are a joint venture partner in Exchange for Change, the New South Wales scheme coordinator, and a founding partner in Container Exchange, a non-for-profit organisation that manages the Queensland scheme. We're also a founding partner in Western Australia Return, Recycle, Renew, the non-for-profit organisation created to set up and run Containers for Change in Western Australia, which launched in 2020. In addition, we have been operating the South Australian Container Deposit Scheme for over 40 years through our wholly owned subsidiary, Statewide Recycling. We're also focused on removing unnecessary plastics from our packaging. In 2019, we stopped distributing plastic drinking straws and stirrers in Australia and Fiji, replacing them with sustainable source paper straws. We're doing the same process with cups and lids through our business partners. Lightweighting of our plastic bottles and other packaging in all countries continues. In Indonesia, we continue to remove plastic from our packaging via a lightweighting program for bottles and caps, multi-pack shrink film, pallet wrap, and plastic packaging. Since 2014, we have decreased the use of plastic across our PET packaging by over 30%. And then this is basically me. This is a very quick look, and hopefully, Han, that gives you time back for Q&A. But it is just a very quick snapshot on what our progress and targets are. But I hope that I've been able to showcase a few actions Amatil has been participating in to meet sustainability goals. Going forward and joining with Coca-Cola European partners, we hope we can have a greater success. Han, back at you.
Oh, thank you.
I told you I'll be quick.
Yeah, that's okay. That is actually very good. There are quite a lot of questions, and it is actually amazing that you, in about a little bit more than 10 years as an organization, have made all these changes, which allow you, in principle, to be ready for the goals and targets which have been set for the next 5 and 10 years.
And I think it's important to remember, I mean, it's the last, since 2019, when people became aware of what Coca-Cola Amatil has done for single serve PET bottles, they don't necessarily realize the step change that you have to undergo. It's not an overnight story. We started way back when we decided to put in our own blow molders. That's where it started. So it's yes, you put in the equipment in your facility to enable to have control over the manufacturing, then setting up a factory to create your preforms and closures, then furthermore help you to support lightweighting and changing the structure of the material you use. And it's a step change all the way, and it is little by little that we change, and hopefully going forward there'll be more success stories that we can share.
I'm sure of it. They will be there. Because
Definitely.
you have good teams working on it, and I expect actually quite a lot of an organization like yours. Yeah, and that you can be an example for the rest of the industry, and that is the track you are currently following. I actually would like to ask you a question before I go elsewhere.
Sure.
If you look to those last 10 years, what do you think is the biggest achievement in CCA?
Oh, it'll be my opinion and maybe not something that is mirrored into a company, but I think it was the company making the stand to say that we are going to take control over the manufacturing of our primary packaging, putting up the number, you know, the dollars to set up the facility to manufacture preforms and closures, and to set up operations to be able to blow mold the bottles. Similar as to PACT, Amatil is also looking at a recycle facility because, and like Ben has also said, a lot of our resins are still coming in from overseas because the local manufacturing or the local recycling facilities either cannot or does not have the right infrastructure to provide the right food grade material to be used in preforms. And it's I think the biggest achievement that Amatil has done is putting the dollars into those facilities and putting the dollars towards operation.
Thank you for that. That is, I think, very well explained. But that what you also have mentioned is that the focus is still in Australia on education, because we are not so good yet at catching every bottle which is somewhere in the supply chain, hiding, and in the end still ends up in landfill. And that is part of the process we have to go through and make sure that we are doing it better. And I'll give you an example. On my walk this week, here around in the neighborhood, I came across a guy who just walked out with this huge bag, plastic bag, in which he had bottles, plastic bottles, which he was very nicely putting in the yellow bin. And then what happened? The yellow bin was full, and then he walked to his red bin and threw everything in there. So that is what we are still fighting in community, to make sure that the right thing is happening, and it doesn't make it easy. And that is why I'm so much always bringing things back to education, which also Ben mentioned in his first presentation. If we don't do the right things as a consumer, I think we're all having a tough time to reaching our goals.
Definitely, definitely. And that's why I think when Amatil brought out the 100% recycled content bottles, the two ads that they brought out at the same time, the one is the Coca-Cola ad with the ladybug, and the other one was Mount Franklin. And I think those ads are very powerful if people listen to them, and it's a way of bringing humor and touching people rather than just giving them facts. And I think that's one way. The other way is definitely like Ben, similar to what Ben has done, going to schools. I have done in the past as well. And that's where we need to catch it. We need to catch it with kids. And funny enough, it sort of sinks in with them more than with adults, if you take them along the journey and explain to them.
I'm very, very pleased to hear that. We are actually embarking in the beginning stages with the Society of Plastics Engineers here in Australia on trying to set up a program of twinning between schools and plastic converters. Because as you heard from Ben, we still have a very bad rep under the general public on how good plastics are, and most people still see it as waste and litter, and they don't see all the good things which are happening.
Well, my 14-year-old sees it as pocket money.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing things. Yeah.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
Yep, she sees it as pocket money. So
yeah, that's the way you got to look at it. It's valuable resource.
Yeah. Are there any more questions from you as presenters and the group which is are organizing this, which there are? And if not, if there are no questions, then I think we should go to the question and answer session. If not, I think we should start to do that. If you all agree with me, I think you do that.
Yes.
I just go back to the first question in which I have on the Q&A list, and if other people want to react on that, please do so. It's from Tony Grigoriadis. Hi Ben, does your recycled LDPE have gels, and what is the MFI? That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you, Han, and thank you, Tony. The food grade recycled low density polyethylene it's a fractional melt product. Now it's important to consider, so this product is derived essentially from post-industrial, a single post-industrial material. So we've been running this material for the best part of 2.5, 3 years. The issue being that the capacity on it, it's not a post-consumer material, so the capacity does sort of fluctuate. And look, at in terms of your question, it's being used into film, no problems at all, no issue with gels. It's a very high quality material. We've got an LNO on it, so a letter of non-objection, and it's being used into blow molded products as well. If we could run more of it, that would be fantastic.
It will come, don't worry. Will happen. I think we're on the right track there. I have here another question. Thank you for that. From Bill Verhagen. Hi, Steve. What is PAC's view on a market mechanism to incentivize the use of post-consumer resins? The concern I raise is that the recycling costs are high and arguably getting higher, but virgin resin costs have kept getting lower over the decades, particularly when gas and oil prices go low. How do we shore up the national packaging target of 70% recycled plastics by 2025? That's not an easy one.
Bill, thank you for your question, and it's an excellent question. Look, there's quite a few ways that you can approach this now. I think firstly, firstly, one of the things that needs to be looked at is that there needs to be a level playing field, and you need to stop, you know, cheaper materials coming into the market. So in terms of virgin resins, you know, we see that there's certain countries and jurisdictions around the world are moving towards putting a premium of virgin material. I think one of the other key drivers too is that you need governments to regulate the use of, you know, recycled content. I think from a pack perspective, one of the things that is going to improve, you know, the economics of this is, you know, building scale plants to be able to deal with recycled content or to produce the feedstock, but also ways that we can improve the technology to deal with sortation. One way that we could explore is, you know, we do currently have container deposit schemes for PET beverage bottles. Why not introduce a similar thing for milk bottles as well? That will, you know, that will ensure that that particular feedstock doesn't go through the well, if it does go through the post-consumer, but, you know, it'll certainly simplify it a bit better, and hopefully, you know, reduce contamination and lesser, and reduce the steps involved in producing the food grade resin. So there's a whole number of ways you can look at it, and there's some general comments from me at this point on that.
Thank you for that, Steve. They are all good suggestions. The question is, can we do it all? But I'm sure there will be clever people which are going to do that.
I think with, you know, the support, you know, that we're seeing through the programs being offered by the Australian Packaging Covenant and the work that they're doing, and with others in the industry, it'll take time, but I think we'll get there.
Thanks for these positive comments, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, just that you know. Next question is from Keith Chessel to Ben and Steve. Do you believe that we have sufficient processing facilities, packed VC Martok, to provide food grade rPET requirements to reach the 30% plus recycled content target and the food grade RHDPE requirement of 20% plus recycled content target?
Yeah, I'll start on that one. I think, look, I think between Visi, Martog, and what Pact and Asahi and Cleanaway are working towards, I think there is sufficient rPET available to the market. Food grade recycled high density polyethylene, I'm not too sure at this point in time. I think the collected capacity is going to be something like 12.5 kiloton per annum. But, you know, there certainly could be further investments in that area of the market. The question will come in terms of the ability to source the feedstock, you know, milk bottle.
Yeah, look, I agree, and I think it's also in relation to HDPE. It's ensuring that you know, you have sufficient scale, but also the challenge with HDPE is you know, the potential contamination from non-food PE as well. So you know, the detergent bottles, other non-food type products, where at the moment the recycling or the sorting capability is not yet that advanced, although they're working towards it, to be able to sort non-food from a food grade packaging product. So that's probably one of the key challenges and what needs to happen to ensure that you can get access to feedstock for food contact application.
I think, you know, there's
Yeah, so
technology
thank you.
available. There's technology available for infrared and optical sorting to, you know, to flick out different colors and different polymers, and even metal and so forth. So this technology is available to really purify that feedstock, but you've got to remember that comes at an additional cost. And cost is a big issue here, and it's something that comes up quite a lot when we talk about food grade recycled materials.
Yeah, Ben, I can, if I may react on that too, you're perfectly right. There are plenty of solutions, but in my opinion, one of the prerequisites is that in one way or another, we must understand that if you take resources from the earth or out of the environment, in the end, you must pay for that. And
I agree.
we haven't not been doing that very well yet in the world. And I think as soon as there is more movement in that direction, it will make other technologies to become better, more feasible. And I still hope that in one way or another we get it going, even if it was only a levy or a tax in case you don't reach the 30% recycled content. So that there is some way to go, and that there will be money available to do other things. And I think, yeah, in general, plastics materials are being seen still as a waste material, and I think it should become the opposite. And we should all be grateful that there are materials with all these features which help us in the world. So I think in the end we must respect that and pay for it, but that's a personal opinion.
An opinion that I share with you, Han.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that view as well.
Thank you for that. There is here another question which have come up, and that is to all three. Hello again from Ian Thomas. I have the pleasure of sharing the Health, Safety and Environment group of the RACI in Victoria. We are always looking for sites to visit which are pertinent. So this question is effectively to all of you. Suck you up to COVID, of course. We would love to come and see your facilities. Just that you are aware of that. Maybe you can help Ian Thomas out. Any comments on that?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all from our perspective.
How can we arrange that we get in contact with you?
Just come in contact, send me an email, and we'll try and put you up with the right person at PAC to try and organise such a visit.
I don't mind when you mention your email address.
What's that?
I don't mind when you mention your email address.
You can give it to me.
I don't mind either. It's just at the moment our site in Victoria doesn't accept any outside visitors. So, but I don't mind, you know, maybe a couple of months out if, you know, if people really want to go through an Amatil site, happy to arrange it. And Han, I don't mind if you share my email address either.
Yeah, that would be the only restriction from us as well. It'd be subject to the site regulations. Yeah,
I realize that.
Yeah. So I know our site in Victoria doesn't accept any outside visitors at the moment. So.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say, if I can just say that I'm a member of Ian's Victorian Health, Safety and Environment group. So I do actually have Steve's email address, and I think Marlene's email address, and Ben's as well.
You have mine now.
I'll talk to Ian and see what we can do.
I've got a question, Han, for Marlene. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just interested, obviously you spoke a lot about the facilities in Australia for Coca-Cola Amatil. Do you only supply ANZ, or do you look at that facility supplying, many other markets with the same sort of claims on your recycling?
So Packaging Services Division is a part of Amatil that manufactures the preforms and closures. They do supply outside of Amatil as well. So there are a number of Australian, New Zealand, and I think Fiji and Papua New Guinea manufacturing sites that is not Amatil brands or Coca-Cola brands. Yes, they do support or supply other sites.
Because I think it's just a really good story for Australian manufacturing. Like we seem to be losing so many manufacturing facilities offshore, and this is a good example of where a company like yours is really investing in Australia, which can really lead in this space. And I think it's something that we should be very proud of. And well done, thank you.
To Hans' question earlier when he asked me about the greatest achievement, and I do think it's Amatil's way or manner of putting money back into the operations. Yes, it's an excellent story to say that you've got 100% recycled content, but I think the bigger thing was putting in the money into operations locally.
Mm.
Yeah, that's actually a very good positive story. And I think we all have to realize, and I'm sure you all do who are living in the plastics industry, that having a lot of bottles which are 100% recycled content means that there is less recycled content available for others. So we still need to do quite a lot of work, and that is what I want to come to, quite a lot of work to make sure that we recycle in the supply chain more products in the proper way.
Yeah.
We don't lose materials which we have available in one way or another.
Can I make a reaction to that, Han? I think,
Please.
One critical element here is that we need to have a harmonized approach to the collection and sorting of plastic across the country. That is critical. I mean, depending on where you are in Australia, there's going to be different council, the MRFs will be taking certain products. That needs to be harmonized across the country, and government, through the work that APCO is doing and through the assistance of government, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, but there is already good news. There is work being done on getting the specifications at least tabled in the beginning. And I hope that in the next 10 years, we will reach this harmonization level, which we are all looking for. Because without it, I agree with you, it will be very difficult to do so. It also means that we need to get used in the supply chain, also as consumers, to more simple systems. And if we want to have something extra, that obviously can still be provided, but it will cost money. Mm. And that are two aspects which I think have not been fully appreciated yet in general by the public and by the government.
Yep.
I want to mention the government too.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there are any other comments, I'm listening. If not, then I think we should close the session, and I would like to thank all of you for participating in that. Also our registrants, because you're part of the deal. And it is not only us presenters. And I'm very pleased to hear that each of you is so positive about the future of what we are doing with plastics in Australia, because that is really very helpful. And so thank you for that. And I also thank you again for making the presentations. I cannot finish without having mentioned our sponsors again. BASF, Foundry IP, Rankit Benkaiser, and Qenos. And thank you for that support. And the only thing which I still want to mention is the next presentation, which will be on the 18th of May and will be industry voices about making the production and use of plastics more sustainable. Very much in line with what you have heard this evening. So thank you to all our registrants for being with us this evening. And I hope that you will be back again on the 18th of May as well. Yvonne, do you still have anything to say?
No, all good.
Thank you very much then. And it was a great evening. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Han. Thanks, Yvonne.
Thank you.